Welcome to the Savvy Podcasting for Entrepreneurs podcast, a place for podcasters to learn what's actually working in the world of podcasting and how to use their podcast to generate consistent leads in their business. I'm your host, Jenny, and I'm so excited you're here. Hey, Savvies, welcome back to another episode of Savvy Podcasting for Entrepreneurs. In today's episode, I am chatting about how to stand out among the sea of podcasts because there are a ton of other podcasts out there. So we need to kind of know what we can do to stand out. But before we dive into the episode, I wanted to quickly mention my podcast launch blueprint. So this handy blueprint will give you the exact steps you need to take to make your podcast idea a reality. So you can grab this blueprint by going to savvypodcastingforentrepreneurs.com/blueprint. And yeah, let's get back into the episode. So as of March 2021, there are about 1.9 million active podcasts. And that number is growing every single day, which is just crazy. I feel like the pandemic really just allowed a ton of people to have more time and really just finally start their podcast, which is just amazing. I know back in April of 2020, I had tons of inquiries for podcast launches. So I think the world was kind of like opening up for podcasting, which is great because now podcasting is more popular than ever. So in recent times, I have found that a lot of people use this as an excuse to not start because they think that the podcasting space is oversaturated based on those numbers. So if you want to learn my thoughts on the topic of podcast oversaturation, if I think it's true or not, head to episode 180 and give that episode a listen. It's super quick, but I think that's important if you're curious about that. But in my opinion, the podcast space is really just getting started, and now is the perfect time to add your voice into the mix, despite there being almost 2 million active podcasts out there. The internet's a huge place. The world's a huge place. Like if you can reach just a couple of people, you are doing what you're meant to be doing. And with that being said, you will need to find ways to set yourself apart from other podcasters. And I'm going to share some of the ways that you can do that. So I have 4 ways. So number 1 is kind of an obvious one. It is be yourself. So it can be difficult to kind of stay in your lane when it comes to podcasting because you see all these people doing all these things and getting all these downloads. And you may want to emulate what that person is doing to kind of help you. But in the long run, people listen to your show for you. They don't listen to your show because you're acting like some other guru out there. They listen for you. So be yourself, be uniquely you. That is what's going to keep people coming back for more. If you try to be someone else, people are going to be able to see right through that. So be yourself, stay true to yourself. Don't do things that don't feel good to you. And yeah, that is it for number 1. Just be yourself. Super important. Number 2, don't be afraid to mix it up and try new things. The podcasting space is such a beautiful thing because we're able to do all these different things and try new things. And, we can do guests, or we can do solos, or we can do a mix of the two, or we can do seasons, or we can produce podcast episodes every single week of the year. We can record episodes weekly and put out episodes weekly, or we can do every other week, or we can do once a month. It's the beauty of it. No one controls the schedule of the podcast, the content. That's all up to us. So if you're not liking how something's going with your podcast, mix it up, try new things. It's not going to hurt you. And if your audience doesn't resonate with that, then go back to the old way. But if you're going to try new things, feel free. Like it actually helps you stand apart because you're not just doing the same thing as everyone else. There's so many different podcasts out there. If we're all doing the exact same thing every single week, it gets boring. So make sure to really just play around with it, have fun with your podcast, do some things that you may have never heard of before and see if that resonates with your audience. And if it does, keep with it. And if it doesn't, then you tried, right? I think it's just important to be innovative with your podcast. That is what's going to keep people coming back for more each and every week. All right, number 3, promote your episodes and promote often. I see so many podcasters. I know sometimes I struggle with this for my own podcast. We do great for our clients, but my own podcast sometimes takes a back seat. But it's really important to promote your episodes and not just the day they go live, continue promoting them. You don't want it to just fall into the black hole of content. You want to keep sharing it where relevant. So, for example, in this episode, before we dove into these 4 different ways, I shared about a previous episode that I had on the podcast about oversaturation. So think of where you can reshare your episodes in unconventional ways, not just always posting on social media or whatever, and share them again, because some people listening to this episode may have not listened to episode 180, where I share about oversaturation in podcasting and if I think that is the case or not. So just make sure to promote your episodes, share them. Not everyone listens to every episode that you put out. So and they may not see it on social media because obviously the algorithm does not show your post to every single person that follows you. So it's important to continue promoting them even after they've gone live and continuing to get new eyes on your show, because if you want to stand out among all the other podcasts out there, you need to continue to promote. That's just the nature of the beast. And then lastly, number 4, use unique avenues to share your episodes to expose your show to new listeners. Obviously, keeping people around for more, so listener retention is really important, but it's also important to acquire new listeners and continuing to grow our show every month. And that's going to be hard to do if we are not present and promoting our show in different and unique ways. So some cool and unique ways they're not all super unique, but they're different, to promote your show and get new listeners are being a guest on other podcasts. That I've talked about that a million times. It's my favorite way to grow your podcast, and it allows you to share your podcast with a new audience. If Pinterest is a good fit for your topic, it's not always the best fit for everyone, but if you think it will be, try out Pinterest. That's another great way to get in front of people that you may have not had the chance to connect with before. And it's just a great way to get traffic to your website and eyes on your podcast. Doing happy hours on Clubhouse. So you've probably heard me talk about Clubhouse before, but it's a really fun audio only app that is invite only at this point, but I know it'll be available to more than just iPhone users in the near future. But engaging with your audience on there, having rooms each week to discuss your podcast, different things like that, that helps you stand apart and puts you on kind of like a level playing field with your listeners. Podcasting is kind of a one-way street unless you build a community. So you doing any of these things allows you to get in front of new people, kind of set yourself apart from other podcasters, because I know not many other podcasters right now are utilizing Clubhouse and, having happy hours and things like that. So I think it's really important to kind of figure out how you can engage with your audience and keep them excited about your show, keep them coming back for more, while also growing your listenership, because that is really crucial as well. So those are just a couple of ways to continue to get new eyes on your show and connect with your current and loyal listeners. So that is pretty much it for today's episode. If you'd like, you can check out the show notes for this episode by going to savvypodcastingforentrepreneurs.com. And I will see you guys in the next episode.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast player like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Stitcher, and leave a review. You can find us at savvypodcastingforentrepreneurs.com and on Facebook at Savvy Podcasting for Entrepreneurs and Instagram at Savvy Podcasting. Make sure to join our free Facebook community for podcasters by going to savvypodcastingforentrepreneurs.com/community and join in on the exclusive community just for Savvy Podcasting for Entrepreneurs listeners. I'll see you there.